and welcome to another prefrontal episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 382, recorded Sunday, July 31st, 2022. Tonight we are talking about another Patreon pick. This week's movie was chosen by your girl Logan, and the movie is Session 69. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy Randu. What's up, man?
Hello, Gordon. How's it going?
Fuck you. It's going good.
Dude, you know, it's interesting to me. We're going to get into it, but it's interesting to me that this has a Hello, Gordon in almost the exact same rasp as Saw. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I'd like to play a game.
Hello, Gordon. My name is Session 9, the monster. I want to play a game.
I too hate therapy. I'm terrified of it, so it works. Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Psycho Soju. That's my wrestling name.
What's your special move, bro?
Oh, dude, the DD69.
The double D69.
No, it's not.
Never heard of that.
That's my asshole a little bit.
That's a special move. It's in the asshole a little bit.
Well, that is the DD69.
Wrestlers,
my mistake.
Wrestlers hate when you toss their salad.
Man,
they tap out.
My salad.
They tap
I like
out
it where
every
it
time.
is.
Wrestlers hate this one simple trick.
That's the clickiest clickbait I ever did here.
This one simple trick.
So plump, so right.
Yes.
Well, before we get into the movie, let's hit up some of this housekeeping real quick. We're recording this episode on the last day of the month of July, and at the time of recording, our August poll pick is basically over, and the winner...
It's over.
The winner is The Faculty.
Ooh, that one got heated.
Los Facultas.
Yeah, I
don't know what
really
that's
don't know
supposed to
what's...
be, but yes.
I really don't know what's up with this 90s push this year. Whoa.
It's almost like the youngins of the 90s are voting exclusively in our poll pick.
Those chuggy motherfuckers.
No. Dude, bring on the chug. Chugga chugga.
Dude, that Josh Hartnett haircut's coming back around. I heard the kids love it.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be one kid who absolutely rocks it. And
look how good hair was in the 90s.
25 years.
How good it was. It's like he was just wearing a beanie, but he wasn't.
He just cut his hair himself. You capitalist pigs.
Honestly, that was the haircut of 2020, honestly.
Capitalist pig. Going to your supercuts, paying upwards of $15, $16 for a trim. What a fucking
I'll just do it like my boy Josh.
No!
Well, anyway, since our August poll pick is pretty much wrapped up, we got a brand new poll pick currently posted on our Patreon website. Our September poll pick is up. The theme for September is Spooky Season Pregame.
Here we go, boys. Here we go.
Yes.
The three movies to vote between are Sleepy Hollow, Hell House, LLC,
Yeesh.
and last and probably least, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Oh my lord,
Steve
one of
Finney
those
gets
is
it.
a troll pick.
It's the last of the franchise. We gotta do it. We gotta do it.
God.
We can close the book until literally a movie called Ends comes out.
Yeah.
Joke's on us. It's not over.
Oh God.
It'll never be over. Get your votes in before the end of August. We'll see what movie we're talking about this September. In other Patreon news, we're dropping a brand new minicast this Friday. Freddie.
Whoa.
Freaker. Brand new. Ooh. That was a slip. You got
We're
fat fingered.
We're on par here today.
Babe caught me slipping.
Bay. We're dropping a new minicast this Friday. If you support us at the $10 level or above on Patreon, you get access to a whole back catalog of Patreon exclusive episodes. We got over 70 on there now, and it grows every month. This Friday, we're dropping one on a movie called Master, and Juice, you were talking about this little joint.
Yes, sir, I was. Master. This is a newer film that came out earlier this year. This is on Amazon, right? Is that where you watched it, Bob?
Amazon
Okay.
Prime, yeah.
Yeah, so this one was pretty solid. It's got some solid it's got a Halloween party, so a little bit of spooky vibes. It also mostly kind of like moves into winter, but it essentially takes place during the first term of university for this young woman who's going to school in like Massachusetts or something like that. And it's got a lot of witch lore to it. So I dug on it for that. And the setting is very beautiful. This kind of very old timey, college or whatever. And I thought it was a pretty solid watch. So if you're interested in some new horror, that'll be coming your way on Friday.
All right.
Check it out. Slam it into your ear holes.
Yeah.
In other Patreon news, we have a brand new Patreon supporter. We got to get
shit.
shouts
Hell
out.
yeah.
Big shouts outs to your boy Chris Beatbone for signing up and showing us some love on Patreon.
The old
I'll be stroking.
Someone be stroking.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for supporting us, Chris. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show, and it truly does help us keep the show going, so thank you so much. As is tradition around these parts, we owe Chris Beatbone the old straight chilling salute. This one goes out to your boy Chris.
Oh, God, slap me in the ass.
Slap me in the ass, Beatbone.
In the ass. God
It's a little look,
man.
It's a little look into the soju bedroom.
What are we doing?
That's one of those lines that's going to be on your gravestone for sure.
I'd be proud to have it.
The echoes Juice left behind.
Just about you adding that.
Are you the butthole?
Are you the butthole?
Are you the butt? Oh.
I'm still not sure where that's from, but whatever.
I don't know either. We'll never know. Randy's
One day you'll get some class.
lips are locked.
Nah.
That's all we got for Patreon. Do you guys have any news? Anything you want to mention?
No, I think that's it. Heading into spooky season, we got a lot of stuff brewing for y'all, though.
Dude, yeah,
Get ready.
we got so much stuff coming down the pike.
Dude, really?
Yeah, we got some. We're soon to have some more YouTube content, so be prepared for that.
Whoa, Bob!
Be
Spoilers.
prepared to be bedazzled.
We gotta build the tension, anticipation.
Ooh,
Pumpkins.
yeah. Ooh, gracious. All right. Well, I do believe our house is clean.
This house is clean.
All right. Let's get into the main event. We're talking about Session 9, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
I'm not sure what it says about me that I'm way more on point today when I'm like 3 beers deep than usual.
Just got to grease the wheels there, Randy.
Yeah, Randy.
One of those guys that needs to drive drunk,
I drive better when I'm shit hammered.
I am 10 and 2, and I am going right down the middle.
Damn.
Needs to be drunk. Anyway, Session 9. The movie was released in 2001 with a runtime of 1 hour and 37 minutes. This was written and directed by Brad Anderson, stars David Caruso, Stephen Gevedon, Paul Guilfoyle, and a whole bunch of other folks. And a plot synopsis brought to you by the actual back of the box this week. I got the Scream Factory Blu-ray here in my hot little hands.
Whoa, Bob.
Those hands are so hot.
That's a pretty little item you got there, Bob.
Thanks, bro. So it goes on to say, it looms up out of the woods like a dormant beast, grand, imposing, abandoned and deteriorating. The Danvers State Mental Hospital, closed down for 15 years, is about to receive 5 new visitors. Donning protective gear, the men of the Hazmat Elimination Co. venture into the eerily vast and vacant asylum that is filled with an evil and mysterious past. Rampant patient abuse, medieval medical procedures, and rumors of demonic possession are some of the many dark secrets the hospital holds. But then so do each of the men. So, General Mangs, this movie's been out for quite a minute, and it's got a bit of a cult following. I feel like it was sort of slow to build, but, there's some rumblings around the horror community about this movie.
For sure.
Had you guys seen this before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy, why don't you kick us off?
Yes, I might have seen this 2 to 3 times. I can't be sure. I've seen it more than once, though, and yeah, generally I would recommend it. And I think that, like, to your point, Bob, about the horror community and their embrace of this, I think it's largely centered on the idea that it is an undiscovered gem, or something, an undiscussed gem, maybe. It kind of flew under the radar quite a bit. And that's where I see the most conversation about this movie. And in that realm, I think it's definitely worth a watch. So if that's what you're looking for, then you got one here. I think it's worth a look.
Okay, cool. Juice, what about you?
This was a first time watch for me. I had heard about this film, and I kind of agree with that assessment. It really, as far as like where I see this movie fitting into the horror conversation, it's now more than 20 years removed from its release. And even though it is getting more and more discussion, I feel like it's one of those things like, oh, you've seen a shit ton of horror movies. Well, have you seen Session 9, where one of those things could easily be brought up?
It's the litmus test.
Well, no, not that. Of just like, oh, here's something maybe that you haven't seen that's solid enough to kind of recommend and catch somebody maybe by surprise. But, I don't think it's just this blanket recommend, but I think for its time and its era that it came out, that it's pretty solid, pretty solid underground kind of hidden gem, like Randy was saying. So, yeah, I think it fits in that realm for sure. Bob, how about you? Had you ever seen Session 9, 69?
Yeah, I'd seen this movie a couple times before. And yeah, somewhat similar to that. Yeah, I give it kind of like a qualified recommendation, I guess, if you're in the mood for something that's a little like subtle and set in a very haunting location, specifically if you're into like creepy asylums, then yeah, this is definitely going to scratch that itch for sure. Yeah, but we'll get into the rest of it here in a minute. Sounds like a pretty solid recommendation from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie.
Spoiler warning.
Hello.
All right, Bob, do you have a plot synopsis?
I do indeed, Gordon. I do indeed.
It's pronounced Jordan.
Jordan. So yeah, the full plot synopsis is as follows. We got our boy, Gordon Fleming. He owns an asbestos removal company in Massachusetts, and he bids to do a job removing asbestos from the now defunct historical Danvers Psychiatric Hospital. His crew consists of Mike, a law school dropout, Phil, who is currently grieving a breakup, Hank, a gambling addict, and Gordon's nephew, Jeff, who has a fear of the dark. While walking through the hospital, Gordon begins hearing a disembodied voice. Mike also finds a box of tapes consisting of 9 recorded sessions between patient Mary Hobbs and her doctor. Mary has DID, dissociative identity disorder, and her other personalities consist of the princess, Billy, and Simon. Hank finds a
69 dudes.
Heard that?
And 69 dudes.
There's 69 dudes in that woman.
In her brain. In her brain. Hank ends up finding a stash of old-ass coins and other various rare objects hidden in the wall. He returns later that night to collect the items and is scared by strange noises and then finds a shadowy figure. Hank ends up not showing up for work the following morning. Gordon confides in Phil that he slapped his wife after she accidentally spilled boiling water on his leg. He's now sleeping at a motel, and she refuses to speak with him. Jeff then finds Hank staring out of a window, mumbling to himself. He disappears, and the crew splits up and try to go find him. Mike goes back to listen to more of the spooky tapes. Jeff and Phil find Hank in the underground tunnels, half naked, muttering to himself. The generator runs out of fuel, leaving a very terrified Jeff in the darkness. Mike restores power and listens to the 9th tape that reveals Mary's Simon personality was responsible for stabbing her brother and parents to death. Phil finds Gordon in Mary's old room, staring at photographs of his kid's baptism that he's glued to the wall. Jeff emerges from the tunnel and is attacked by a random person. We don't see who it is. Gordon arrives at the hospital the following day and finds Hank wrapped in plastic sheeting with a lobotomy pick in his eye. Gordon then sees Phil, who tells him to wake up before vanishing. Craig, who is a new hire, shows up to work that morning as well. He sees Gordon standing over Hank, who is barely alive. Gordon attacks Craig and stabs him with the lobotomy pick. Gordon finds the remainder of his crew members' bodies and recalls murdering each of them one by one. He also recalls killing his wife and daughter when the boiling water was spilled on his leg. A very distraught Gordon tries to call his house and apologize to his wife. Obviously, she does not pick up the phone. We then hear a final excerpt from the 9th tape where the doctor asks the Simon personality where he lives, to which he replies, "In the weak and wounded, Doc. Roll them credits."
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a creeper.
I've always been a creeper.
Very uplifting.
What if Simon sounded like Gilbert in this movie?
In the weak and the wounded, Doc.
Doc.
How long have you been sitting there, Simon?
35 years.
Hello, Golden. This would be a totally different movie.
Dude, I want a recut session 9.
The Gilbert cut. We need the Gilbert cut.
Release the Gilbert
cut. My boy Gilbert.
Bob, did you want to talk about the asylum now, or you want to kind of dip into the film first?
I kind of do want to. So this is something we don't typically do trivia at the start of the show, but this movie was filmed entirely at a real life location. It's the Danvers State Mental Hospital, and I just thought it would be kind of a good idea to give some history about that location to sort of contextualize the discussion we're about to have about this movie and these people that are walking through this super creepy building that did actually exist. If
I don't know, Bob, the structure of this podcast is, very
perfect.
important.
It's perfect.
Solid.
Yeah.
Time tested.
It's time tested for sure.
You can't just go dropping trivia on us.
We're just relentless is what it is. Like it's yeah.
Hit us with it, Bob.
Yeah.
Tell me about
You're
Danvers.
going to listen to us.
So I've got oh my god. We've got some trivia here. So the land that was chosen for the construction of this hospital was previously owned by John Hawthorne, who was one of the 9 magistrates who oversaw the Salem witch trials in 1692.
Oh yeah.
So
my boy Hawthorne.
You're already starting on some pretty
Quite ironic.
suspect property here. The building itself.
That's just New England.
Well, yeah.
It's no different than any 7-Eleven, really.
Wow. The building itself was built in 1874. It opened in 1878 in Danvers, Massachusetts. It was finally closed June 24th, 1992. So it operated for roughly 114 years. The building was constructed according to the Kirkbride plan, which they mention that in the movie, which was a system of mental asylum design advocated by American psychiatrist Thomas Story Kirkbride, who was alive 1809 to 1883. The environment and the exposure to natural light and air circulation was sort of key in his designs. That's why they have this sort of Batwing style floor plan that they mention. There's giant windows, so like there's no room that's like completely blocked in. You're supposed to get a lot of natural airflow and light in these rooms. There's at least 30 original Kirkbride buildings that have been registered with the National Register of Historic Places in the United States. Danvers was one of them, even though it's largely been torn down. The wings furthest from the center complex of the building were reserved for, quote, the most excitable or most physically dangerous volatile patients. And they mention that in the movie as well. They say, the outer wings were, quote, snake pits. The original plan was designed to house roughly 500 patients with additional attic space that would give you room to grow up to 1,000 patients. But by the late 1930s and 40s, there was between 2,000 and 3,000 patients being housed. So severe overcrowding led to them keeping people in the basements of the building, which there were two.
Oh my God.
There were two sublevels. So in the movie, we see them go down into the tunnels, and then where they actually find Hank sort of naked is the second sublevel, where it's just muddy floors, and it's like there's no way anybody should be living down there. So in 1945, there was a roster that was found of the employees that were actually working the overnight shift on a random night in 1945. They had 2,300 patients in the hospital, and there was 9 people staffing the entire hospital.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ, dude.
So they were just severely understaffed and underfunded, and that led to patients like dying like completely unnoticed because there just weren't enough bodies to go around and check on them.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to be responsible for hundreds of people by yourself.
There's not enough time in the day. It's impossible.
We would never even know if something happened.
Yeah, even just checking roll. Who's here? Like
that's like a 2-hour ordeal.
Yeah. So when the hospital opened up, there were like some good things going on. Like it had good intentions and it started well. In the 1890s, there was a Dr. Charles Page. He was the superintendent. He declared any sort of mechanical restraint to be completely unnecessary and harmful in cases of mental illnesses. But by the 1920s, the hospital was operating school clinics to help determine mental deficiencies in children. And there were reports coming out that they were using shock therapies and, of course, lobotomies and experimental drugs and straitjackets. So, I mean, it started off with the best of intentions, and it just sort of fell apart. This did end up sparking a lot of controversy during the 1960s as a result of increased emphasis on alternative methods of treatment, deinstitutionalization, and community-based mental health care. The inpatient population started to decrease. Dr. Walter Freeman in 1936. This dude is a motherfucker. He would perform lobotomies by like drilling a hole in the skull and doing it that way. He thought this method took way too much time, though. So he started performing what's called the transorbital lobotomy, which is the ice pick through the eye socket there to save time. He also did this reportedly with no anesthetic at all. He then toured the nation performing lobotomies in a van that he called the Lobotomobile.
Oh my gosh.
Jesus, dude.
That's unbelievable.
It is. I'm not done either. He stopped off at mental institutions throughout the country and taught the staff how to perform this procedure. He would also just offer his services for $25 a pop. He'd do $25 lobotomies. Roughly 15% of the patients that he performed this procedure on died. He also never wore gloves or a mask. He performed.
Oh, what the fuck, dude!
He performed in the ballpark of 3,500 lobotomies in 23 states in the United States of America.
Oh my God, dude!
Lobotomies ended in 1954. They were replaced by a drug called Thorazine, which was effectively the same thing. It just wasn't a surgery. During the 1980s, teenage patients randomly went missing. Apparently, upwards of 115 kids in 3 months went missing. There's a new doctor on staff that was blamed for this, but they had no evidence or proof of the case.
Went missing from the hospital?
From the hospital, yeah.
Okay.
Jesus, dude.
And the cops showed up to investigate, and the dude vanished. Never found him.
Oh, damn.
So, I don't know exactly what happened to those kids. Maybe he was just letting them fucking go because he knew it was better for him, or maybe something nefarious was happening. I don't know.
That's a very positive spin.
I mean, it could be the case. It really could be.
Good. I mean, it could be.
I'm proud of you for pulling out the positivity.
Way to be optimistic, Bob, over there. Maybe just let him go.
Get out of here, kid.
Maybe.
Run.
Maybe he gave him $1 million.
You bother me.
And a hot air balloon. And now...
I told you bother me, kid. Yeah. Get out of here.
The budget cut started in the 1960s, and by 1985, the majority of the original hospital wards were closed or abandoned. The Danvers State Hospital is just one example of, like I said, it's put on the local historical societal list or whatever, and there's a lawsuit filed in 2005 to stall the demolition of the building, but the majority of the Danvers State Hospital was demolished in 2007 despite the lawsuit, and only the sort of center portion of the hospital remains today. The bat wings and the big gymnasium in the back were all demolished, and it was restored and converted into like very high-end apartments that people live in.
What?
Which are haunted. They have to be haunted as shit, right? They have to be.
Candyman 2021.
Yeah, seriously. God damn, people are dumb.
The very vast underground system of tunnels still exists today, as well as the very large cemetery featuring hundreds of graves, and there's
now a silent disco.
Right. Yep. Oh my God. It's a craft brewery, and they got the best beer you'll have. There's at the entrance to the cemetery, there's a very large stone with an engraving on it that says the echoes they left behind. And in this movie, you'll see the headstones were just numbered. They didn't have names on them, but they went back and pulled the records and replaced all of the numbers with actual names on the headstones. Okay. So it's way more personal and like less shitty, I guess.
So
yeah,
in this movie, it is Danvers, right? Like like it's shot at Danvers.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, absolutely sure that that's where they were shooting those correct.
It is the real hospital that they shot in. And
I knew it was a real hospital because my God, this set is incredible.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so let's talk about the movie.
Were you done, Bob?
Just two more points, real quick.
Okay.
So the Danvers State Hospital is believed by literary historians to have served as inspiration for the infamous Arkham Asylum and H.P. Lovecraft's The Thing on the Doorstep, which then went on to obviously inspire the Arkham Asylum in Batman. And finally, ending on a high note, there's a patient by the name of Marie Balter. She was misdiagnosed for schizophrenia at Danvers, but eventually was put on the correct medication for severe anxiety and depression. She lived at Danvers Hospital for 20 years and was eventually discharged in 1966. She went on to attend Harvard and earned a master's degree in medicine. She ended up marrying the love of her life, and she returned to Danvers as an employee, dedicating her life to medicine. She later founded the Balter Institute, which featured what was called a patient-led form of healthcare, and she now has a biography titled Nobody's Child, and there was also a TV movie released in 1986 about her life, also titled Nobody's Child. So,
oh my God.
Oh, she's a fancy flapjack.
Success story nuts. There. That is
that's like
some history.
The first half of that is the setup for any asylum-based horror movie, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, I got out and now I'm going back as a doctor. I'm sure nothing horrible will happen. There'll be no regression or concern about my own well-being. No.
Dude, that is legit one of my serious, like, maybe ridiculous fears, but being institutionalized against my will. That shit's fucked up. That thought of that.
Yeah, it is.
Oof. Especially, you go in for a little, depression. End up spending 20
I had a hard month, and now I'm 30 years in.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some of this movie here. So I really wanted to paint a solid background of the hospital, because to me the hospital is so clearly a character in this movie, and to me it's the loudest, most boisterous character of all in this movie. Even though we have some fucking characters here, but it's just so fucking haunting and imposing, and clearly affects the mental state of these people when they enter it, and that's supposed to be depicted by their actions and stuff. So I don't know. I just kind of wanted to lead with that. But I don't know. Let's get into the story. The story.
So, I felt like when I was watching this movie, I was like, this really feels like a movie that was written around the idea of we can film in this location.
It was written for the location, for sure.
Yeah. So, and I think that's I don't, that was very obvious to me throughout, because to me, the story is not that good. And a lot of this really hangs on the fact that this location is amazing. And unfortunately, like, for being able to film at this location and what it looks like, I don't think that they completely filled the potential of that and kind of put together this kind of half-assed story, in my opinion.
So I
go
ahead,
Randy.
Bob. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of agree with you. I was going to say something pretty similar, which is that, like, the setting is pulling most of the weight with this movie for sure. Yeah. I think that the story, I'm not quite so down on the story. Like, I think that it's sloppy, but not it's imperfect, but it's serviceable, but it is carried by its location.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that they filmed it here, if it was not filmed here, if any part of this was in a soundstage, we would be suffering a much less impactful movie for sure.
Yeah.
So, and that extends to, like, pretty much every aspect of this movie. Is like, I feel like largely we have a sloppy situation. I will say, though, like, what I disagree with, or what I'm inclined to disagree with anyway, is that I don't know that they didn't use the setting. Like, I think they used the fuck out of the setting. I think maybe they could have gone further, but considering, like, like what I imagine is a shoestring, almost made for TV budget, because this is a TV production house at the time. Like, I think that they used it as best they could. I think whatever, extra they could have lumped in is probably a benefit of ours from the hindsight of having a few dozen of these kinds of movies.
Yeah.
With pretty rich settings. Also, A Cure for Wellness comes to mind.
Absolutely. Even a whole season of American Horror Story.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the true life events that inspire it have inspired like 100 movies since this movie came out. And some of them are quite good and go quite a few places that nobody, I think, when this movie came out, would have anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely some Shining vibes here, entering a location that affects you and your family in a way, or your coworkers in this point. To Justin's point, though, like, I see what you're saying, where, like, maybe they underutilized the location that they were giving, but the majority of the location was condemned and unsafe to be in. So they were limited.
That's fair. That's fair.
They were limited. But, I mean, it definitely was, the movie was literally written for this location. They knew that they could shoot there, and that's definitely the strongest thing that they have going for them. I think, like, as far as the plot here and, Gordon being stressed at the house with his newborn baby, and of course we find out there's way more going on there. I think that's interesting enough, and I think, like, Hank being, like, a gambler, and, like, there's enough given to you as far as, like, these people and who they are and how they're broken, but I feel like the delivery of what's written on the page and just the performances are, like, not really banging for me. I'm not really buying into these, like, interpersonal riffs that they're having. It just it feels a little hollow to me. I'm
with you, man.
I don't mind the story so much. It's just, like, how it's delivered through these actors.
That's interesting, because I'm on a little. So I actually found a couple things in a positive way for such a low budget movie, and so a couple of those things were the situation was set up pretty well. Actually, the whole idea of this has to be renovated. This guy goes in. We know from the beginning he's already under some stress. He's adding more stress on top of himself, not just by taking this job, but then by making the timeline so crazy
undercuts
tight.
Himself like crazy.
Yeah. So it's originally supposed to be 3 weeks. He says 2 weeks, then moves it down to 1 week, and he's already in a bad state. And even if it had been 3 weeks, it still would have had the added pressure onto. I mean, the asbestos, man, I have dealt with that stuff in the past. That stuff is nasty, and having people, like, to remove it and stuff, that's a stressful situation. So I found all that very believable, and the way that it's handled, and he's like, I'll hire on this one guy. It's his nephew who literally has no experience. That all felt very realistic and grounded. And I thought, and even the interactions between the guys as workers, there's this one guy, I went to law school and but I dropped that. And I found all that very believable. The performances themselves are fine. I don't think they're extraordinary, but I thought that they were believable for guys who are supposed to be in construction. But where the story problems kind of for me was like feeling the need, because we're in this insane asylum, they have this kind of side story that really just takes place with Mike, and trying to connect that in a way that makes sense for Gordon to snap. But it's totally disconnected for me.
I totally agree with that. And that's like the biggest, that's the most glaring thing to me is the Mike subplot, because I really feel like Mike, they give him something of a character to begin with. I totally agree with the way the pieces are set into play, the beginning of this movie feels absolutely natural. It feels totally it feels totally realistic to me. Yeah. And as time goes on, this guy, they're working on a 1 week schedule and they're trying to bust their ass to get things done. And this dude is spending hours digging through old footage just so we can get exposition soundtrack over shit going on. And it's very obvious that's what they're doing. Yeah. And then more than that is the way Mike goes out at the end of this movie is very underwhelming and just sort of kind of happens. There's not a whole lot, he doesn't get what he deserves. He doesn't nothing about him. It's not an arc that character has at all. It's very much just a plot device. He's there to be an exposition dump for everybody. They try to give him a little something by making him a law dropout or whatever. And then have who's it, Phil, be like, no, you're in there slinging that shit with us. And but that's nothing. That doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't have anything to do with why he gets killed or anything. It's very sloppy. And the thing is the performances, I largely agree that most of them are pretty forgettable. I wouldn't say that any of them are absolutely atrocious with the exception of a few key lines. But I would say that Peter Mullen, who plays Gordon, does a great job. I would give him the credit.
He's the best.
He does good.
Yeah.
He stands out.
Because he has a couple scenes where he's supposed to be emotional. And he's on the verge of crying when he's talking on that phone. He's out in the graveyard.
Like he's teetering on the edge the whole movie.
He does. Yeah. He does a good job.
I wanted to ask you guys, Randy, you were kind of getting into it a little bit. So Mike's listening to these tapes, and we got Mary Hobbs, and she's being interviewed by her doctor, and her doctor's talking to all of her different personalities throughout the course of these various tapes that he's listening to. And at a certain point, the Simon character shows up at the very end of the movie, and we find out that Simon is the murderous, psychopathic part of her brain that ends up killing her family. And that voice of Simon is also speaking to Gordon. And as soon as Gordon walks into the hospital, he says hello, Gordon, or whatever. Yeah. And whenever Gordon has his flashback, he's also hearing Simon's voice, or we're hearing him hear Simon's voice telling him to do it, telling him to kill his family. And I wanted to ask you guys, did you have some sort of theory or hypothesis as to what Simon is, or how he is connecting these characters, or if they're connected at all, or did you make sense of that in any way?
Do you want to start, Juice?
Yeah. So that's the problem is I think that there's an ambiguity around it, but I don't think it's a just kind of natural, genuine ambiguity. I think it literally comes from poor writing.
I totally agree with that. That's exactly what I was going to say.
So any kind of argument based around, is it true, is it not? I think it really is just through poor construction, because you're right. Before Gordon kills his wife and has this extra trauma, there's something speaking to him in the very first situation. Yeah. Okay. So you're there's something there. But the problem is they want you to believe that he's somehow connected to Hobbs. He's living in her room and this whole thing. But they set it up from the beginning. He hasn't been sleeping. His baby is crying constantly. Yeah. He didn't really want to have a baby. baby. His wife spills boiling hot water. I mean, he has this
His business is about to go under.
This terrible wound. Yeah, his business is about to go under. He just took on this job that he can't actually finish, probably. And so, but there's also at the very beginning this voice that speaks to him, but he doesn't have enough time to spend in the asylum to be infected or haunted.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, because literally he gets the job. So the first day he hears the voice of Simon, goes home, accidentally kills his wife, and then spends the next week in the asylum.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
I had to double check the timeline too to make sure, because I was wondering, did he kill them before he ever got there? Was it midway through?
No,
it was to celebrate the job and the bonus offer and all that stuff. Yeah. That he brought champagne and flowers home to his wife, and that's when the incident happened. So it was that night. Yeah. To me though, I think on this watch, I'm going back and forth on this a little bit, because I feel like what they're trying to get across, I think that, Justin, you're absolutely right that there is a writing issue that is really the core of the ambiguity that's here. Because I think what they are trying to do is not say that this is a ghostly apparition that has infected this man, but that it's like the very last sentence kind of gives away the ghost, where it's like, okay, Simon says, I live in all the weakened, what is it? The weakened broken. Yeah. Weak and wounded. So I think that like what this, it's trying to draw a parallel, and the things that we were hearing speaking to Gordon were all just like Phil was later in the movie, apparitions in his mind. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Things that were like that were figments of his imagination as he's slowly unraveling and untethering, because he hasn't slept in 3 weeks and his all these issues that we talked about already. And then when he goes home and that shit happens, like with his wife, that is a parallel to the incident of Mary Hobbs and her brother, where her brother like scares her in a certain way, and she has already got like traumatic trauma that has resulted in DID. So she develops a new personality called Simon, who is a violent protector of her, or just a violent sadist. And his whole line in that last scene is like they all let me do it. It's because I think the core conceit that they're going for is that everybody has this capability in them. Everybody has a breaking point, and Gordon reaches his just as he is sort of like being in this situation where these people that were like him that have experienced that have also been, and he's getting all this exposition dumped on him. So it infects the way that he breaks. Yeah, I think that's what's supposed to be happening.
Yeah, I think that's really the most common interpretation of it, is like we all have that Simon portion of our brain, and like some people access it, some people don't. It just sort of depends on the person and I guess the stress level and whatnot. I did find like another explanation online. This is not something I came up with myself. But there was somebody was writing about this movie. I'm sorry that I can't cite the source. I should have written that down. But they say like Simon could also be a genius Loki, which is a protective spirit of a place. It's been used in religious iconography before, oftentimes holding a cornucopia or a snake. And, the wards in this movie were, called a snake pit. Which I think snake pit. Sort of interesting. And I could see that being the case. Like Mary Hobbs could have died in this place, and then that portion of her brain or whatever
here's the problem.
Infects Gordon. Yeah.
Here's the problem, though, is the huge disconnect between how Mary comes across Simon, or, like it's portrayed of how she has Simon in her, and Gordon's idea of Simon. And really the only thing to connect them is the fact that they were kind of both under stressful situations. But that's not even really the impression I got from Mary Hobbs. The impression I got from Mary Hobbs is she has these multiple personalities. And the whole point of the sessions of which this movie is named is pulling out that particular personality. Okay. Gordon in no way shows signs of having multiple personalities. And one thing that I thought that they were setting up that would have made a little bit more sense is they were saying, oh, you know, this place closed in the 80s and they just let people go out on the street. You know, there's a couple lines at the very beginning of this where they're setting this up.
Which is true.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, you know, is it going to turn out that actually Gordon used to be here? And so he has a similar kind of affliction. Well, because there's no connection between Mary Hobbs and him, except that after he kills his wife, he stays in Mary Hobbs' room. But Mary Hobbs is like mentally sick. She's there because she switches between personalities. That has nothing to do with Gordon.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't until he hears about it, until he is present for the exposition about that. And the thing about somebody who is breaking from reality is whatever they are surrounding themselves with, whatever thoughts they are surrounding themselves with, start the hallucinations of what reality is start from there. So to me, it makes sense that he is like glomming onto this way of thinking, both for like storytelling purposes of like making that correlation, but also because he's there and he's like sort of living adjacent to these gruesome facts.
But he doesn't hear about Mary Hobbs until after his family is killed. So, so there's no idea of like Simon protected him or Simon saved him from the situation.
I don't think Simon as a character has anything to do with him, except that is a name he eventually ascribes to the personality that came out of him. That like it's a way of protecting yourself from culpability. Like when you have somebody develops DID, it's because of trauma, because he did something without thinking and he needs to put culpability somewhere. And it just so happens he just heard this story about somebody who was a sweet little girl who turned violent all of a sudden because of supposedly either spirits or DID. And he's using that way of thinking to describe his own actions. That's why when he finally comes to like the realization of why that's happening or why like all the people he killed, he's like talking into a broken phone and shit. He has fully broken at that point, and he has to acknowledge what he's done.
Well, that's why I'm confused too, because Gordon's not the one who's listening to the tapes. You know, we as a viewer who can follow all these characters around know that this story's going on, but we actually don't know how much Gordon knows about this story.
Yeah, he only knows what Mike told them about. I don't think that like I don't even think that like maybe he even knows the name Simon. I don't think it has, like I think that's probably for our benefit as viewers. That's why they have Mike go off so that we have this parallel story to explain his journey. But also it informs slightly. It is sloppy. And like I agree with you on that. Like I feel like the whole story, like it needs those tethers either like more reinforced or less reinforced so that it's more ambiguous.
Take Mike out of it and have Gordon listen to the tapes and it would sort of streamline everything. There was another like side story or plot that was in this movie that they ended up cutting out, removing entirely. Where, you know, we were talking about how in the 80s when it shut down, they just let people go out on the street. And in the beginning of the movie, they even say like, some of them just came back. They were squatting. They didn't have anywhere else to go. Yeah. And they actually had that happen in this movie. There was a person living in the hospital, and Gordon would see like ghosty figures, you know, across the way, looking at him through a window or something like that. Or a figure walking down the hallway. He'd like hear footsteps or whatever. And it was a real person. And in the end, he was supposed to be murdered by her. But they ended up cutting that, I guess, to make the plot more simplistic. I feel like it would have maybe filled in some of these questions that we're having. Like if he was like
maybe they didn't see way more all the way,
way more. Yeah. Maybe. Because like as far as we know, like he hears Simon speaks to him a couple times, but he doesn't necessarily know that Simon. It's truly just a voice in his head, as far as we know, and like he doesn't know much about Mary Hobbs at all. But if he was like seeing more shit, it might like help explain why he's so paranoid and acting the way he is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But even if like Mike had stumbled upon those tapes having just spun, you know what I mean? He finds them like one just spinning on the thing. Session 9 is spinning on the thing. And starts it again. That gives us an interpretation. We're like, okay, Gordon's been here all night. He can't go home. So he's been here all night listening to these tapes to then find a pathway. Yeah. Like I think if they had done something simple like that, they could have made that drive home a little bit. But like to whatever extent, like I prefer this Like, I prefer the idea that this is built on like sort of like a primal fact of life that everybody has a mental breaking point and can turn into something that it never would see themselves as otherwise. Like, that is like, that combined with the setting are all you really need to have. Like, that's what gives this movie the power that it has, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And all the sloppiness can kind of be overlooked a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, because of the strength of those two impulses. So if they had brought it back and made it like, oh, actually the people who were released, the crazy people, are actually still there being crazy and killing people. That's like, not only is that a little bit like ableist and fucked up, but that's also just kind of like, it doesn't have the same emotional impact to me. So I'm glad they stuck with, or they made that change, I guess.
Well, I think where another disconnect is like, it's completely believable, you know, that Gordon goes home, he's under all this stress, and he also gets this crazy wound and in a fit, because I like how he describes, you know, I don't know if it was the baby screaming and the dog barking. It really sets his mindset in this lucid state, you know, it really does, where he's kind of replaying it back as this slow motion movie in his head. And he obviously just still is dealing with the shock of it. He's living in the asylum. He won't even go home and address it. There's corpses there, apparently. So that's good. But then where, you know, and then he infected by Simon? He goes absolutely insane in the end and just kills all of his workmates, like methodically kills all of his employees, including his nephew. That's a huge disconnect. It's okay to say, yeah, you have a breaking point and you accidentally kill your wife and kid in this fit of, you know, this crazy lucid state. But then to say, like, you walk around this asylum and methodically kill 5 people is,
I agree.
It implies, oh, he's haunted. Simon is driving him. And it's like, those are two different ideas in my mind.
I think that the scaffolding is not there to really support that also, but I can see a pathway where that could have made sense. Where, like, if he's like going on no sleep for another week, he's just killed his wife and infant child, and probably the dog, who knows? Like, he's done all these things. Like, I could see like the mental break carrying on as he fails to grapple with what he's done. Like, that is a thing that does happen to people, but I don't think that the movie properly conveys or sets that up for us, and it instead feels like a leap of logic that would exist. And like a lot of like the plotting of this movie feels like it came out of like a very 70s cerebral horror, but like it's set in such a beautiful setting, and it's like using a few modern sensibilities that work. So it feels it feels elevated from that in some way, where it's like got a little bit of extra something to it, a little bit of extra capability, or a little bit extra interest to it, because it's not depending on like being in just a house or something like that. It's in like this incredibly specific place. I just really think that the setting pushes me over all of these problems for the most part.
It's doing the heavy lifting. This also is a sneaky Halloween movie. Is it? I think it's Hank that goes off to a bar, and it's a very brief shot. It shows him drinking at a bar alone, and in the background you can look, and the bar is fully decorated for Halloween. Is it Phil?
I think it's Phil.
Phil,
somebody does.
I didn't notice that.
And
I did. I do. Now that you mention it, I'm like, I didn't take the note on it, but
and we
remember.
They did not discuss it at all. So
no,
we get Larry Fessenden in the last 10-15 minutes of this movie, which is always nice to see. That dude pops up in like random movies here and there, and I'm a fan of it, man.
Where would I know him from?
We talked about Jugface, and he was in that. He's also he's like a low budget. Glass Eye Pix is the name of his production company. He's a writer, director, actor, producer in New York City.
House of the Devil.
Yeah. He's just done a bunch of work, man. Habit. Joe Bob just showed Habit a couple weeks ago, and that was one of his movies. That's his vampire movie.
Okay.
But he's
not a name I know, but that's interesting.
He's everywhere.
Cool.
That's the thing. The end of this movie is kind of a poot. Like that guy. So, you know, they tease this guy. A poot. Like, it just kind of,
fuck you.
fades out. I don't know. Everybody just gets killed in the end. It didn't have any real tension. You know, I thought that they could have played up this newcomer coming in and maybe seen the situation for more of what it was, where the other people who were closer to the situation couldn't see it. But he just comes in and then just gets axed. I mean, this dude literally just strolls into the building.
He goes full scat man in this movie.
Yeah, he just comes in. Yeah, he really does. Except we never had seen him before. I feel like they really missed some marks with this. By the time this end came, and I was like, oh, everyone's just dead. I was pretty disappointed by that. It didn't feel like it earned that ending. And it was just very underwhelming for me.
The movie does... I think I don't know. I guess my biggest problem with this movie is that it tells you a ton, but it does not really show these things happening. Like, you sort of understand what's going on because these people tell you, you know, or like you get to watch Gordon like find the corpses, and then like you're like, oh, okay, well, he's remembering that he did it, and then like he has the memory returns to him that he killed his family, but like we don't see it. We just like hear the audio of him recalling it in his mind, and like I don't know, it just doesn't show much. I feel like an important framing device here is that not framing device, but an important framing of this movie is that this is 2 or 3 years after The Sixth Sense came out, and all of a sudden everybody's jeans were wet for plot twists. Damn.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they hinge this movie on, is that, oh, you don't realize it, but here he is. It was him all along. It makes you think it's David Caruso, but it's not. And it's supposed to anyway. I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to red herring David Caruso, and they go as far as to have him like explain the deaths, except he doesn't. He's like, you got to wake up, Gordon. And then that turns out it's Gordon. And like now with today's eyes, I think we absolutely clock that instantly.
Yeah. Did anybody not suspect Gordon?
I'd be surprised if anybody didn't suspect Gordon.
I mean, the first scene, the first dialogue that they have is, "Oh, you haven't been sleeping,
I'm
exhausted. Your kids." Yeah, I'm absolutely exhausted. Yeah.
I hit my wife.
Like literally every dialogue that they had just adds to the fact that Gordon is losing his shit. Yeah. So the very beginning, you're not sleeping. They mention he didn't even want to have a kid. He mentions that like it's got an ear infection and it just like will not stop. We see his life with like the sad looking wife in the yard. I mean, who like... we don't know anything. Even if you were like, maybe it's Phil, we don't know anything about Phil. There's no motivation for Phil to. No, you spend all your time finding out about Gordon's background. Yeah. Who the fuck else is it gonna be? Another one like, too. When Hank goes out in the tunnels or whatever, when he's first going there, the jar of peanut butter is there. They literally showed that scene of the jar of peanut butter. He's got the Oreos, cookies. He's got the peanut butter, he's got flowers, and he's got champagne. Dude, that peanut butter laying there. Yeah, I was like, well, that's clearly Gordon. The GIF, the fucking GIF is there. Get done, dude. Who is it? That's the kid. Who is eating the Cool Ranch Doritos? Was that Phil? They should have that old ass 90s bag of Cool Ranch Doritos or whatever. Like, I don't know. But hey, I don't know. It's neither here nor there. Okay, well, like, I was gonna bring up some like positive if you guys want, like some other positives. Yeah. So like, or just some other aspects, I guess. Like, I really did like the Hank finding the stash in the what was crematorium. In the crematorium, like through the wall. I thought that was really fucking fun and like a really cool use of the space. You found the teeth. I mean, like you found like the teeth and all that shit. I don't know. I thought that was pretty great. Like it's tough to like. I cannot overstate enough how much this fucking setting rules and how much they used it. I think largely pretty fucking well. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of great wide shots or whatever, but then there was like sloppy shit, like the fuck you that I've played a few times, like, and it really dampened this movie, like from being something much greater than what we ended up having. And I think it's really like the lobotomy stuff. Like, there's some toying with that was a cool scene.
it's kind of a cool scene, but I'm not like big on like that being used as a device. That feels very tacked on to me.
Not a big lobotomy fan.
Not a big lobotomy fan.
I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Hell yeah.
All right, Tom.
Heard.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, there's some stuff that like this movie could have used some sanding. It could have used some time.
Yeah.
With maybe with a second pass, a third pass, whatever, another few passes with a few other sets of eyes.
You're getting into your final rating and review a little bit.
I guess it kind of
go and just land the plane.
Were we not going to talk about this dope list?
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that, and then we'll rate it. Okay. So
this is a throwback, though. By the way,
yes. I think 2 A Cure for Wellness episode. I might be wrong.
Oh, maybe. I think it was before episode 100.
I think so.
I think
I'm
that
pretty
might
sure
have been.
it was.
That would fit the bill, yeah. So we found a list, and it's labeled Reasons for Admission, 1864 to 1889. So there's just this long-ass list of it's 100 different reasons or something like that for why people would be committed to an asylum. And we talked about it way back in the day, and some of these are hilarious, and some of them are sad, and some of them we don't even know what they are or what they mean. But we wanted to bring
boy's got
it back up.
dropsy, Doc. What do I do?
What is dropsy? What is that?
Speak English, Doc. We ain't scientists.
Dropsy Gannis?
My boy drops again. What else? The war is
The war.
notable.
Kicked in the head by a horse always cracks me up. Because it's legit, kind of a reason. Because if you were kicked in the head by a horse and you're still strolling around, you're probably fucked up.
Dude, rumor of husband murder.
Just the rumor. No,
man, I'm sorry, but people
required.
are talking.
Dude, gathering in the head, that's like the best description I've ever heard.
Uterine derangement? What does that mean?
See, look,
Vicious
masturbation
vices.
for 30 years is a line item. Masturbation for 30. I gotta say, I'm sitting here looking at this and it's
they're
been a
gonna
few
check
years.
me in, boys.
Fresh eyes. Fresh eyes on this leads me to think that this is not a legit list. This cannot make. Maybe there's maybe one
of them just
one
says
example of each of these.
women trouble, not like woman's troubles or it's women trouble.
Bad company.
Snuff eating for 2 years.
That'll drive anybody crazy.
Spinal irritation. My back's hurting. Better put me in the clink.
This says female disease.
Yeah.
What?
Well, we've all been there, huh, boys?
Desertion
Death of
by
sons
husband.
in war.
Death
of sons in war. If you get left, or if your sons die in a fucking war, your ass is being bottled up in a straitjacket.
Getting Baker acted. Oh, she got divorced. Got Baker acted.
Literally just the word politics is a line item.
Hard study is one.
Gunshot
this is
wound?
from the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum gift shop or some shit. I gotta think these are...
Now, some of them... Yeah, which that was a thing, nymphomania, but also self-abuse is one. Okay, that's
sure. Jealousy and religion will get you locked up.
Oh yeah. Time of life. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Masturbation and syphilis will get you locked up.
Only if you have the and syphilis.
Yes.
That's
yes.
Well, what if you have what
it says tobacco and masturbation? What's all what? Let's just do a blanket on
that's oh man. The cigar, that's Bill Clinton's cigar style.
Oh boy, that's a throwback. Fucking 90s kids in the house.
Dude, I don't know, man. What if your kink is being bound? Would that be a cause for them to bind you into prison? Or into an insane asylum?
Political
Isn't that just playing into their
excitement.
hands?
Dude.
That's we're gonna get a lot of people locked up.
Marriage
Bad
of
whiskey.
Oh,
bad whiskey.
I'd lock anybody up for bad whiskey. Marriage of son. So don't do that. Don't do that.
That's fair.
Well,
that's fair enough.
I mean, your son gets married or you marry your son. That's a key difference.
Laziness.
Sorry, Margaret, your son got hitched last week, so
It just makes me think of that Simpsons episode. Oh, look at me wrong. That's a paddle.
There's a line item on here that says "fighting fire." Don't ever put out a fire.
You just let it burn to the ground.
Suppressed masturbation, so you can masturbate too much and not enough.
Can we start a band called Vicious Vices? Because that's an incredible band name.
Yes.
Overaction of the Mind?
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
All right. I think we've... This udder is got plenty of extra milk. We don't have time for all that shit.
Yeah. Vicious Vices.
Smallpox? You're fucked if you got smallpox.
Greediness, grief, gunshot wound.
Just
the three
don't
Gs.
Dare get shot by a gun. Your
parents were cousins. Look, we just can't let you roam the street.
I mean, that's fair.
Time of life. It's just the time of life where you get fucking committed. Just time of life.
Novel reading. Novel reading.
Uh-oh, watch out, librarian. They're coming.
The librarian, they're coming for you.
Yeah. Well, I guess, look that up if you want to see the rest of it.
Seduction and disappointment. Jesus Christ. What is this list?
And
seduction and disappointment. Ah, man.
Oh, my.
That seduction didn't go as great as I hoped.
I'm really disappointed in that seduction.
Better sign into the loony bin.
Vicious Vices. All right. That's Reasons for Admission. Check that shit out if you want to see the rest of them. Let's go ahead and rate our movie here, Session 69 out of 5. Randu, kick us off. How do you feel?
So yeah, I've already kind of kicked off a little bit, like you pointed out. So I really like this movie. Obviously, I've seen it a few times before today. Like, to me, the place setting, the world building, the initial setup, and the passable, if not the mostly passable acting jobs, carry over the non-passable jobs in both acting and in writing. I feel like there's just like, I don't know if it's even missed opportunities, like Justin was saying. I think it's just like some rough edges that need sanding on this thing, and then all of a sudden becomes a much more like buttoned up film. If they had just gone a little bit further, been given a little bit more time to do that, I feel like we would be singing this thing's praises on a much bigger scale. As it is, to me, it's an incredibly atmospheric movie. Again, due largely to the fucking setting. This is it's notable that this is a almost entirely daytime film. Because it's one of those where that doesn't matter. It just does a good enough job putting you in this place, putting you in this feeling of unease and just being unsure-footed, that it really just works as a scary environment to live around in for a little bit. I don't know, man. We went a little bit hard on this, but I really don't feel like this movie I don't feel like it really earns anybody's ire. I think that its problems are easy to overcome because its better qualities are just that good, in my opinion. And I think that it's got a perfect place in the horror gab fest as being this movie that is largely overlooked, but which has a lot of great shit going on that's worthy of a watch. I'm really into this movie overall. I think that it's worth people's time, warts and all. So I'm gonna give it I'll give it a 3.75. I'm split between 3.5 and 4.
Wow,
3.75.
That's much higher than I anticipated.
I mean, a lot of that is just coming from strict love of the material. I just like it. Like, you know what I mean? It's not, the craft is not completely there, but like, I love watching it. So.
Okay. Bob, you like to go next? Out of 5, Session 69.
Session 69. Yeah. Kind of like Randy here. The atmosphere of this movie is the winner chicken dinner. The setting, the location is just extremely interesting and cool to look at. And unfortunately, these characters are far less interesting to me. Or at least their portrayal is far less interesting to me. So like for the first probably 2 acts of this movie, I'm kind of struggling with learning about these characters. Like you get segments of the sessions, and those are interesting, and the voice actors in those are very effective and creepy and haunting. But then you go back to the dialogue of these workers in the gymnasium, and I feel like it just kind of is not nearly as interesting.
Oh my God. That is so interesting. Can I really quickly interject that I had a weird backwards feeling about that.
Really?
That like the Simon voice, sure, even the doctor voice, sure, but I feel like a lot of the voices that are like just voices in this movie sound like they belong in a cutscene for Max Payne or something. Like they really feel out of place and unnatural compared to the very natural feeling crew just gabbing with each other.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there is definitely
that's just interesting that you have.
There's a disconnect in there, but yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe the story beats that they're hitting in the tapes are just more interesting to me, and that's why I vibe with it.
I will agree with that for sure.
And like these other people were like, you're banging my ex-girlfriend. It's like, I don't fucking care. I don't care about that at all. We don't even see that person. It doesn't matter. So like, I don't know. They're just sort of spinning their wheels at the beginning of the movie, but luckily they have this amazing location they're working in, and they're using it to the best of their ability, I think, for sure. There's some interesting like guesswork going on as you're watching the movie unfold that does sort of keep you somewhat engaged as to like, who's creeping around this place, and like what is Simon? What is this entity speaking to Gordon? How is it related to these tapes? Like it's got to be tied in one way or another. I really like the idea of the genius Loki in being sort of a protective spirit of a place, and that sort of affecting Simon, even though like he's clearly about to snap before he ever walks into the building. So there is some sort of disconnect there in like what they're trying to say, what they're really trying to do with this movie. I'm not 100% sure. It's very open for interpretation. Which I guess is like kind of to its benefit and to its detriment. It's just, it feels a little fast and loose. But I think it lands in a way that's interesting enough to sort of like warrant a rewatch and try and make sense of those beats or those sort of threads that are left dangling. Yeah, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think it's a very solid movie, and if you're looking for something that's set in an asylum, definitely got to check this one out. I'm going to come in with just a 3 even on session 9. Juice, how do you feel?
All right, so there was a couple things I wanted to touch on, but we kind of ran out of time. So I'll start with those since we haven't mentioned them. I thought that the sound design in this, I mean, y'all kind of touched on it a little bit, but the sound design is kind of wonky. I was of the mindset I didn't really like the voices on the tape. I thought they sounded really cheesy, but it's not just that. Some of the music cues or whatever are really wonky, and also to the sound design around the wife, oh, Gordon, not right now. And they put this weird effect on it. It just sounds very cheap and not good. And a lot of, like I said, some of those musical cues were really wonky. And I just didn't overall like the sound design of this film. One thing I did like, though, that we didn't really get to touch on, I kind of wish they used it more, but there was a couple instances where I thought that's works really well. In addition to the setting was the idea of the asbestos, because that's their whole job is to go in there. So there's this old kind of thing that was, in the past seemed like a regular, normal thing. It was a part of society. And now we're having to go in, and we found out that it's actually dangerous. It's poisonous. And so that kind of ties into the idea of the practices of the hospital and how it, deteriorated over time. But also, they had this one scene where they're covered in it, and Phil and Gordon are talking. And he's like, "Go take a shower, Gordon. Don't take that stuff home with you." And I thought it was a good connection to the idea of like taking the stress and like all the other things home to it. But at that point, his wife and kid are already dead. So it's got this irony to it of like, don't take that home with you, this dangerous asbestos. It's like they're fucking dead. Like, that's dark. Also, too, there's a scene where the kid, it makes it even more powerful because it's at the end, and the discussion was specifically, I think, with this kid. So what's the kid's name? Jeff? So when Jeff is down in the tunnels, and he has a really good freak out. I loved his freak out about being in the dark and the lights going off like behind him. He's rushing to get out of it, and he's just standing by the light. But by the time he gets out of it, his just fake face is covered in this dust, to where I think when he like breathes out a couple times, he's like breathing out this like disgusting air filled with asbestos. And earlier in the movie, they were talking about how it gets in your lungs and just, sits there, and tissue grows around it until it becomes a time bomb and like kills you with cancer or whatever. And I thought, him being covered with that, like it coming out of his mouth, but also tied to the idea of that's like Gordon is currently going through his mental time bomb where it's exploded in his mind. He goes and kills his nephew. Like, I thought that was a pretty good connection. So I like the idea of the asbestos and like just the filth of it all. But I thought maybe they could have used it a little bit more, but I like that. I thought that was pretty good. Overall, what I felt when I was watching this movie is I never fell into the story. I felt like I always recognized the amazing setting, and I always was just like, I see how they're constructing a horror movie around this setting. That's how I always felt. I never fell into the characters or their struggles or this weird connection that they're trying to tie. I always just saw it as what it was. So I kind of always saw the strings, and I never fell into the story. And so for me, I was a little confused about why this movie gets so much love. For me, it's very kind of middle of the road. I get the appeal of, wow, it's like super low budget, kind of reminded me of Possum a little bit in that kind of way. It just didn't have the good story beats of Possum, in my opinion. So overall, I'm going to give this one a 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah, hey, I have a question before we wrap it up. What was the deal with David Caruso shaking hands with those kids outside? Did that really happen? And if so, like he
I thought he was just buying weed, because later the next morning it shows him smoking weed. But
gotcha.
they just
they didn't connect that at all.
At the beginning, they're giving this big speech to Jeff, like, show up on time, work hard, and no drugs on the job. So like Gordon's very much like a stickler kind of guy. Gotcha. And yeah, Phil's just smoking weed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I thought like that was clearly used as part of the red herring thing. And later on, he's like, I saw those guys. They were trying to guys
told him
kicked
to
him out of here. It's like, but he shook his hand. So did that not happen or what? Like,
no, he was good.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, cool.
So we do have a voicemail we're going to be playing from yes. Logan tonight, who chose this movie via our You Pick the Flick tier on Patreon. This is something we started doing new this year. If you do grab a You Pick on our Patreon, we encourage you to send in your thoughts, rating, and review for the movie that you choose for us to talk about, either in a voicemail or an email. So let's hear what Logan has to say about Session 69.
Hey guys, what's up? And fuck you. I'm really glad that I got to pick this movie for you guys to review. It is one that I kind of just felt was ready. But I was watching it this afternoon, and I didn't realize how little I paid attention to this movie the first time that I watched it. And I still really liked it both times that I watched it, but I missed quite a few really good details that they kind of sprinkled throughout. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Other than that, I really like how it pans out. I think they make some kind of weird choices aesthetically at the end that would kind of take away from it, but other than that, I have really been thinking about what I want to give it. I've really been slipping, so I think I'm going to give it a 4.5. But I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about it. And have a great rest of your week.
All right, 4.5. Logan. A lot of people really love this film.
A lot of people love this milk.
Film movie.
I love milk.
This is the best milk I ever did.
5-star milk.
This film. A lot of people love this film.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think Logan's alone in rating this very high, and I'm stoked that it's sort of gained this cult status, and people are talking about it, and it's very easy to track down now as well. I think it's definitely worth watching, in my opinion, even if we don't like it quite as much. I still think it's way.
I definitely think it's worth watching. Yeah.
And that's another thing actually that like kind of added to the appeal of it for many years is how difficult it was to find for a while. Like this was not the easiest movie to it felt like you were like had to go spelunking to find this thing, and when you got it you were pretty pleased with what you got, so maybe that elevates it, or maybe that elevated it for me because I knew I had to search pretty hard to find it.
I want to just give a quick little sales pitch, I guess, on this Scream Factory Blu-ray, which is very easy to find. So they do on the bonus features. They have, I can't remember the dude's name that produces this. It's just this one guy. He started doing this all on his own. It's a segment called Horror's Hallowed Grounds, and he goes to the original filming locations of horror movies, and like he documents what they looked like then and what they look like now. Have they changed?
Oh yeah, he's on YouTube.
He's on YouTube. Yeah, and Scream Factory. They feature
Greg
him.
Turkington.
They feature him on their discs as well, and he goes to Danvers before it was demolished and turned into apartments, and after. So you get like before and after shots.
Okay. That's an actual interesting one.
It's really fucking interesting. I highly recommend checking that out if you have the disc. He even goes to the cemetery and he shows you like what the new gravestones look like. And
it's a glamping spot now.
They just like they took up all the old like just numbered crosses that they had, and they're just laying in a huge pile to the side. Like just chilling there. It's
I don't get contractors sometimes. Hey, let me pay you to do this one thing, but then don't clean up other important. Take it to a dump or something. Like
trash
what?
Hanging around.
Oh my god.
There's some cool bonus features on this disc. Anyway, is what I'm trying to get at. So with all of our scores combined, our aggregate for session 69 is going to be a 3.1. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about session 69.
Certified fresh to death.
Are you sure that score wasn't supposed to be a 3.7?
It's whatever you want it to be, brother. Whatever you want it to be. It's a 6.9.
Wrongly questioning Bob's math skills every week.
Good Lord. This is going to last forever. Rotten Tomatoes. This is a segment in which I'm going to have these gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive ratings are for session 9. And that's both for critics and user scores. So let's start off with our critic scores. There are only 73 here, so not the world's biggest sample size. Juice, are you about to crack up for some reason? Why is this?
Well, a couple of reasons. So you said this is going to last forever. And I thought, oh, what a great little soundbite for just us dragging this podcast along. And for some reason, that made me think of the rat scene from Halloween Resurrection. So I started cracking up.
This will last forever.
It's a hairpin trigger for you.
It was bitten in half.
All right, there are 73 reviews for this movie, rats notwithstanding. And I'm going to start with Bob on this one while Juice composes himself. What do you think the percentage of positive ratings are out of that 73 reviews?
I'll take a 69%, please.
69%? That requires me to find a bump, which I can't do. There we go.
69, dudes!
Thank you.
We got a lot of shit to sift through here, guys.
Gotta go with the session number.
That's tough. Yeah, it's gonna be so close to that. I just can't figure out where the critics are gonna fall on it. I think I'll take the lower end. I think the critics are gonna be a little bit lower on it. So I'll say 68.
68. All right. Well, that was, Juice, a pretty good instinct because it is 66%.
Oh,
you guys were both right in the zone.
Damn.
There. Well done. All right. So
yeah,
we're going to move over.
About right. And that's pretty close to where we are. We're a little lower, but pretty close.
Sure. Yeah, it is. Let's go over to the audience score and see how close they are. Well, there are over 10,000 audience ratings, so a significantly larger sample size here. Juice, we'll start with you this time. Where do you think they fall on that scale?
I think it'll be a little bit higher because so many people just like surprisingly really like attach themselves to this film and love it. So it's still going to have a cap. So I'll take it to 75.
75. All right. Bob, you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be higher than the critics as well. 75. Shit. I will $1 up with a 76.
76. All right. Bob, you fucked up. This here is a 63%,
Damn.
markedly 3 percentage points lower than the critics.
Mind blown.
That's hell yeah, sweet. Oh, psycho soldiers coming out for the hell yeah, sweet.
The double D.
Like nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
All right.
Oh, God. What the yeet is cooking.
Oh, jeez.
You got to smash 2 beers together and pour them all over your face now.
I wish.
Are the jokes done now?
Sure. Yeah, we'll take a break.
Austin 3:16.
Okay,
that's my favorite Bible verse. Everybody look it up. All right. Now I'm done.
All right. Moving on. It is 3 percentage points lower than the critic score. I found that very interesting because I would have definitely gone in the same zone you guys were going in. This movie definitely seems like it should have more. I got to attribute that to sample size, though. I mean, that's the thing that makes the most sense to me.
Or maybe we're just so ingrained in the horror community that we hear a lot of the buzz, but maybe that doesn't necessarily represent everyone as a whole.
A broader audience. That could be too. I mean, we could sit here all day and spin wheels trying to figure it out, but we ain't scientists, so we ain't figuring it out. The critics' consensus reads as follows. Relying more on atmosphere than gore, Session 9 is effectively creepy. And that's all it says, all of which is true, I would say.
Dude, well, legit, when you said Session 9, I was like, something's missing. And it's like, it's just our bullshit. It's like, wait, is that the movie? Oh, God.
And reading some negative reviews because they stand the better chance of being funny. The movie's misplaced psychological emphasis is matched by its stubble scraping visual style. What does that mean?
What?
Stubble scraping? I don't know what that.
Not clean. Not
clean.
Oh, guys, he's Canadian. Don't worry about it. Okay.
We love our Canadian listeners, by the way. Yeah. Just to be very.
No, we're xenophobic. Hate Canadians.
We're okay. But Randy, they put gravy on fries with cheese.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to fault them for that.
On fries?
They put gravy on fry.
Gravy.
They put gravy on fry.
People say brandy.
Put it on fries.
Dude, gravy on fries sounds pretty dope, actually.
Well, yeah.
I'd be down for some gravy on fries.
I could eat a mean poutine. I could do it.
Dude, I'd do it every day.
Damn, that sounds so suggestive.
Wow. I bleed brown, boys.
Gravy? Sawmill gravy comes from my veins.
Dude, are you more of like a white gravy kind of guy or a brown gravy kind of guy?
Sausage gravy, which I guess is more brown. Yeah.
Sausage gravy is more white in my experience, but I don't know. I like, yeah. Like it's stock gravy that's brown usually, from my experience. Anyway, I don't really care that much. I sure do like poutine.
All right.
Anyways.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
One more negative review. The final illuminations are a poor return on nearly 2 hours of ear-buckling, eye-stabbing incoherence. Man, this person hates this movie.
Wow.
Damn.
Doesn't
I
quite
did
pay
not
off.
find this
Characters are-
movie scary at all, though. Did you
No.
guys actually find this
I thought
movie?
No, I like eerie and like
Yeah,
atmospherically
okay.
creepy. Yeah, I mean, I'd find very few movies actually scary. so-
Well, okay. I just didn't see a whole lot of moments of even tension. You know, I guess the Hank scene is the biggest one.
Yeah.
I think just watching.
then-
I think. Okay.
Yeah. I was just going to
Honestly,
say
I
the
think
other
watching
ones.
Gordon
it's-
freak out is the best.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Randy, for that glorious
Yep.
segment. I already blew my trivia load, but I do want to mention just one thing
Yeah,
very
you
quickly. Brad Anderson, the director of this movie, followed Session 9 up with The fucking Machinist, which is really nice.
Fuck!
Oh, that's with
Christian Bale.
Batman, right? Yeah.
Christian
yeah,
Bale, yeah.
famously the movie that he looks like a corpse.
Yeah.
Dude, I have seen that movie. He's so skinny.
And actually plays with similar themes, if I remember right.
Yeah.
It definitely
true.
does for sure. And he's done a ton of TV work. He has directed episodes of The Wire, Treme, Fringe, Boardwalk Empire, and more recently Peacemaker. So this dude is making some good shit.
He's in the HBO family, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
He's
I do
invited
not
to the
watch
Christmas party.
any of that Peacemaker, but I'm not. I don't want to.
If you had directed The Wire, though, you automatically get a big old thumbs up from me.
Randy's Wood. That's what you
Whoa.
get. Sure. Anyway, yeah, we did enough trivia already. Let's go ahead and talk Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the
Juice, what's a Cooter? Why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter.
Oh.
But we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Damn, it sounds
Attaboy.
like an old Street Fighter video game. Boys, do you have any strong candidates for Cooter this week? Maybe Hank.
I mean, he's sexually deviant. I'll give him that because he does not give a shit about the woman that he's bragging about stealing from his colleague and supposedly friend.
And then, totally bails.
Fuck him for that.
He's
and who does not give a shit about her.
He's pea-cucking is what he's doing.
Damn.
Jesus Christ.
I'm a little worried about being a slut.
Hell yeah.
Aren't we all?
You're not.
Well, that's true.
I've never worried about that once.
In my life.
I would not worry about a certainty.
I don't know if there's going to be a strong Cooter here, honestly. Like,
I really agree. Like, let's see. Like, everybody's dressed normally for the most part, so I would just take look and attire off the table or unseen.
Yeah.
Manipulation. There is some manipulation sprinkled throughout. You know, Mike manipulates lies in order to go listen to tapes. Hank lies to go get coins out of a fucking thing out of the wall.
Maybe Gordon? No. I think Hank is going to be so like Hank, he manipulates because he's going to bail on his crew and his girl for stealing shit out of an asylum. He is sexually deviant and like kind of smug arrogant about it too, because he rubs it in this guy's face who he has to work with, which whoever thought that was a good idea to hire both of these guys together.
Gordon.
And Gordon is like, he's like, come on, man, it's Hank. What's your problem? It's like,
he's
fucking my ex-girlfriend. What do you think?
They're like
and he's
throwing
bragging
it in
about
my face every day.
In fairness, like Dave Caruso is also being a huge prick about it, but like he has the right of way in that being a prick situation.
Of course, yeah. So yeah, I think Hank could hit I think he could hit patheticness, sexual deviance, and maybe smug arrogance for a light Cooter. Cooter light.
I think so. I think he's a pretty low-ranking Cooter.
He
Put him on parole.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he hits enough. That was another thing we didn't talk about since we were light on the Cooters, is that whole freak out scene of, when they're really trying to sell you that it could be Phil, and they're like, the phone, I didn't hear it on the phone, or Hank is not here. It's that was a little too ramped up. It was guys, you can just say let's go look and see if Hank is there. Let's call the phone.
Look, we all heard it. We all heard it.
He's don't call her.
I didn't hear it
on the phone. It's what? Just call her. Okay, just call her. Yeah, that was unnecessary.
Pissed at Hank.
Yeah, that was unnecessary.
Yeah,
but anyways.
I don't think there's really a strong enough Cooter personally. Maybe light, maybe Cooter light, but I don't know.
Cooter light, Hank.
I think the boy needs Cooter counseling.
Yeah, he hasn't reached his final form yet. Just keep an eye on him. We'll tag him. We'll check in 6 months, see what's up.
All right.
He's one of those problem areas, but not a full-fledged Cooter yet, I don't think.
All right.
Well,
our work is done, boys.
I don't have anybody else.
Let's kick our boots up, let our hair down, talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randu, what you been watching?
Really, really very little this week for me. I've just had an insane week, and it's been not conducive to watching really anything. I have been blowing off my steam playing through Paper Mario, which I brought up last week, I believe.
Nice.
It's still a lot of fun, and it's a fun little game, but there's not much to really say about it for me anyway, as a non-aficionado, but I have a good time with it. The only thing of note that I would mention having watched, excuse me, is there's a YouTube personality called Vsauce, which is extremely well known. He's this guy who talks through sort of scientific oddities and sort of strange stuff, or interesting just facts and stuff. And he has a fully produced show on YouTube now, on YouTube Premium. And so I watched an episode of this. I'd only seen a handful of his videos in the past, and they're pretty fun. I thought I don't know much about it beyond what I've just said, but I watched one episode of his show called Should I Die? And it was a few segments about death and what it means for people. There was a really interesting talk with somebody who was talking about the benefits of death, which anybody who's watched The Good Place can kind of understand what angle they're taking from that. Watch it all the way through, I should say. It's got some interesting stuff, but then it kind of lands. The last segment I had to kind of turn off because I was like, nope, I'm sorry, I don't know about this shit, because they went to a cryogenic freezing center, and man, I don't know. The person there was like,
are they really freezing people?
Yes. And not just freezing them like Austin Powers style in the full body, doing it Walt Disney style with just the head. And
no,
they literally people pay $300,000 to basically be medically murdered and then frozen and have their blood replaced with some anticoagulant pumping thing. They have their heart pumped through a device.
What the fuck?
It's really fucking crazy.
Where is that? How is that illegal?
Because people sign off on it, I guess. I don't know.
I know, but we don't have legal assisted suicide.
Dude, I don't know where the legalities or lines are drawn. They did not go into that, probably because it would have been in the weeds at that point.
Canada,
but the way it was presented was
fucking.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I had to turn it off. Maybe they went into that, maybe they didn't. But to me, it's that is straight up Futurama sci-fi in my mind. Nobody, to my knowledge, has ever been medically frozen and unfrozen alive. I did look it up and read about one guy who was frozen through some crazy freak accident in the mountains or something, and was rescued, but now has no fingers or toes and he's fine other than that, as far as I can tell. But that's an extreme freak situation. Well, he's fine compared to being dead. But these people are frozen for decades, and as far as I have been able to find, nobody has been reanimated from that condition. So to me, like, if you really like, and including the person who founded this center that they were talking to, the woman who's married to him was his co-researcher, and she was there explaining everything. She runs a company now, and the guy, she's like, "This is my husband. He's in here. We'll unfreeze him one day. He's ahead." And it's like,
that would be so weird.
Just unfreeze them now. Like, I know you like the idea is so that they can survive or whatever. Just unfreeze somebody so that we can see it work. And then maybe you'll get more money, or maybe you find out you have to.
But also too, like, okay, even say you were frozen in the 90s. Okay. You're frozen in the 90s. So that's 30 years. That's enough time, even though it's a small amount of time, to where if you had kids, they would be old, maybe your same age. Okay. And the world is so completely different that it has to be so impossibly difficult to readjust. Think of what's happened in the past 30
think
years.
About our boy
9/11, phones, computers, the internet. How would you just be like,
the
okay,
Doritos Locos
time to
Taco.
go.
How are you supposed to explain
again.
these things to people?
I just
The
like,
Dolo.
why would that sound appealing to you? You know, I
mean, it's the intention is that, like, if you have a disease that it has no current cure, that you live like, but I gotta think there's been a lot of advancements. Like, I gotta think some of these diseases have probably got pretty good treatments at this point. If you can be reanimated.
Yeah,
there's no cure for getting kicked in the head by a horse in the war, Randy.
No.
Or
there's no cure for dropsy, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
One day they're going to cure my dropsy, and they're going to unfreeze my head and put me on a mannequin. I don't know what, but
anything else?
Anyway, that's what I've been watching. No, that's it.
All right. Juice, what you been watching?
I watched the new Park Chan-wook movie last night. It's called Decision to Leave. This is his first movie since 2016, The Handmaiden. So it's been a hot minute since he came out with something, and it was good. Predictably depressing yet beautiful. That dude's got his themes. And so, you know, I kept thinking about like Thirst and how, you know, that ending and just the themes that go with that. And there's like some similar kind of stuff going on. There's no vampires or anything, but yeah, it's a crime mystery kind of romantic movie in a way. And so it was good. But this dude, he's made so many good movies at this point. Thirst, Old Boy. I've heard The Handmaiden is really good. Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Like, he's got iconic films that, I mean, this one probably ranks toward middle to bottom for me, but it's still, despite that, really, really good. Just amazing filmmaking. The craft in it was amazing, but yeah, depressing and kind of a bummer, but really well made. And then other than that, I've just been going through my kind of regular stuff that I've mentioned. I'm like, going through The Boys. I think I'm getting close to the end of season 2. That's still fine yet depressing. I've kind of slowed my roll on that, but still kind of working through it slowly. I also am still watching that The Extraordinary Attorney Woo, and that's really nice as well still. And season 2 of The Simpsons, which is wild how unpolished season 2 was, how kind of like rough around the edges it is. Still some classic episodes, but definitely nowhere near like what 4 and 5 and 6 were. So yeah, it's interesting to go back, but that's about all I've been watching. Bo Bear, what you been watching, my guy?
Hello. I watched the first episode of the new season Pretty Little Liars.
What?
It's on HBO, and I've never watched this show before. The reason I put it on is because I saw an advertisement for it, and it's very clearly inspired by slashers. So I was like, hell, I'll put it on, whatever. I got HBO. And it starts off, the first couple minutes starts off pretty intriguing. It's like playing on some like Scream notes and some Carrie notes, and it's, you know, well polished because it's got like an HBO budget. And I was like, okay, this might actually be interesting. And by the
You
end
never
of the
watched the original stuff, did you?
No, I've never seen the show before this one episode here. By the end of it, though, the end of the first episode, it's just not doing anything remotely original whatsoever. It's just purely referencing other slasher movies. It feels like watching this show is like just reading a listicle of like top 30 most influential slasher movies. It might as well just be that. And like
that's more credit than I would have given.
Like by the end of it, I was just so fucking frustrated. Like they take shots directly out of movies and just recreate them. It's like, why fucking bother? Why are you doing
You should
this?
love that, Bob, right? Isn't that right up your alley?
It is.
It's homage, Bob.
It is unwatchable.
Dude,
homage.
if you think that's unwatchable, try. I mean, Becky was a big Pretty Little Liars fan back in its original run. I don't know if they've seen any of this new stuff, but it'd be news to me. I don't even know if they know about it because I didn't. But, buddy, like, yeah, it's like you take a WB show and then you try and put adult wheels off that kid, take the kid wheels off of it. It's not going to do well, man.
Ooh,
I'm sorry.
Lord.
That's a not recommend from your boy Bob for sure.
Well, damn, let me change my plans.
Right.
I got a new slot opening up.
I watched the Guar documentary that's on Shudder called This Is Guar.
Oh yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was really, really interesting.
Bet that would be really interesting.
It's
got a death curse.
They cover the history of the conception of the band all the way to present day, basically. They talk about several of their records. The band started off as just a collective of artists. They were really trying to make a movie at the start of it, and then it evolved from there. They make all of the puppets, all the costumes. They make everything in-house. They do it all by themselves. It's really, really interesting. If you have even a passing interest in the band Guar, I really recommend it. It's good shit.
That is cool.
You might sell me on that.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird as adults now? You know, I know I haven't been an adult very long, but as an adult thinking about how the world works, of just thinking of being in that kind of situation, you know, like you just live, make puppets for this crazy live show. Like what a crazy life that is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucking nuts.
That sounds ideal.
Crazy way to live your life. And then I also revisited Halloween Kills for a little something I'm cooking up with Mikey over at Let's Get Physical Media. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
How did it hold up, Bob? Really well.
Oh, shit.
It held up fine.
God, you've watched that movie a ton.
I've seen it, I think, 4 times now.
5? Okay. I remember you mentioning you saw it in theaters at least twice, didn't you? And then you watched as soon as you got it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, and then it was streaming on whatever the fuck it was streaming. I watched it. Yeah, I saw it a few times. Anyways,
you've seen it too many times.
I got to be prepared, man. I got to get ready for ends. Halloween's about to end.
You got to get ready. Oh my Lord!
Got to get ready for the end. That's what I've been watching this week. We got one more segment. Let's go ahead and get into our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail, you can do so at 904-638-3231. We have 0 voicemails this week, other than Logan, of course. But we do have an email sent in from our good friend, the librarian. Juice, do you have that pulled up?
I do.
Lay it on us.
All right. Anyway, what up? It's your boy, the librarian. So I was originally going to give Nope a 3.5 as I walked out because I couldn't get any thoughts together and was so confused by all. But then my friends and I turned to the good old trusty peak journalism of BuzzFeed, where there was this article about the subtext. Once I read it, I was like, nah, holy shit, that movie was so good. I gave it a 4.5 because, that's what we gave it, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I gave it a 4.5 because once my bestie and I started talking about all the messages about consumption and making things into a spectacle, I couldn't get over it, especially old Jupe. I added that old part. I might add my own flares here and there.
Oh, okay. It's really more of a paraphrasing than a reading.
Especially
Juice
old
is
Jupe.
so hot.
Especially old Jupe and how he literally turned his co-star's trauma. Wait, his co-star's trauma into a profitable spectacle when the man clearly needed therapy. Everyone processes trauma differently, so I'm not shaming that, but I just hope that man has a therapist at some point because he clearly looked fucked up, disassociated during the flashback scene. There are so many critiques to be interpreted, to name a few that I can't stop thinking about. And there's the list. How many things are consumable for profit? Jupe turning his other's trauma into money. The director dude constantly being shown watching animals fighting each other, etc. What people will do to get that Oprah shot. People that died. Director dude literally sacrificing himself. We thought OJ died, etc. How we profit off the spectacle of others without their permission. Animals can't give consent. Dead co-stars can't give consent. Aliens can't give consent. This is also seen a lot on the internet today where people just feel they can record total strangers for a viral video. Yeah, that is pretty fucked up. That shit disgusts me. Slightly off topic, I wrote a paper on state surveillance and made a meme for it of the Bobby Hill quote, "That's my purse, I don't know you." But I changed it to "That's my face, I don't know you." And I stand by that. There's still some more. I wasn't a huge fan of the final form of the alien, but I appreciate how it became more of a spectacle as the movie went on, especially how it turned all jellyfishy at the end, as if to say, "Oh, y'all wanted something to see." When the kids were fucking with OJ and the kid popped out and OJ decked the kid, I actually jumped out of my seat and ended up punching my bestie. Whoops. They forgave me. I knew I wouldn't articulate this well over a voicemail because when I get excited, my tongue trips over itself so badly, and I already talk a mile a minute, but I couldn't find the straight chilling email, so Randu, I hope you see this email. Love y'all so much. I tell my friends to listen to y'all constantly. I'm getting a new job soon, so I can get on y'all's Patreon and get that sweet, sweet shout out, and also jump on that quarterly pick the movie slot to get y'all to review the cinematic masterpiece, My Love, Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Whoa. Love you all, the librarian, #hard with soju. All right.
So that was added.
I love it.
All right.
It's interesting. Like closing with a hot take seems like a pretty bold move.
I mean,
ooh, Jason Takes Manhattan. I mean, we got to do the whole series, right, Bob? I mean, we just got to do every movie. We have to do every movie.
I agree. If she gets
good at Camp Blood, ain't you?
If she's able to grab the spot, we'll talk about Jason Takes Manhattan. Which,
I'll watch it. I'll watch every glorious minute of that boat footage.
Sure.
There's a lot of it.
Yeah, Nope is fucking solid. It's a solid movie. 4.5 stars from the librarian. Love to hear it. Love to see
Thanks
it.
for the shouts out, librarian.
Yeah.
Thanks for being hard with soju.
Sure.
No,
sure.
I'm so glad she chose not to send a love letter to you, Juice, and instead sent this to me. I'm just saying.
Well, maybe she want to rub it in your face, Randy.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I accidentally sent it to Randy.
She seems like a really oh no. She really seems like a malicious person that would want to hurt you. Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, she knew it bothered you so much. Hard with soju. That was just really.
Why would you hurt me like this? That's my heart.
Yep.
Weird, but thanks for the email, librarian. Good to hear from you. Again, if you guys want to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. Gentlemen, do you have any prompts you want to throw out for next week's show?
Bob, why are you always asking us? You come up with a prompt.
I got to do all the heavy lifting on this show.
I don't do fucking anything. You guys call in and let us know. Let us know why you would be admitted to a mental institution.
Yeah.
Why are people
How bad is your dropsy?
Yeah, I got a bad case of the dropsy, doc. Let us know.
I like to think that that's a condition where you just like suddenly like pratfall accidentally, like all the time. Like,
I want to look that
dropsy.
up.
You got to say dropsy every time.
Hey guys, I was like,
dropsy.
It's like you're Charlie Brown kicking the football, but just like in random parts of your day.
I got institutionalized because I was just chiefing hookah and masturbating at the same time.
Oh.
You can't do that.
Boys, I know what dropsy is. Do y'all want to know it?
I don't think so, based on your face.
I kind of feel like maybe the mystery is better.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, Google it if you want to know.
Yeah,
if you don't,
it's out there. It's out there on the goosh, the great white goosh.
Is it a legitimate thing, or is it just is it like a made up 1800s thing?
Gooch.
No, it's a real thing. It's a British thing. British.
Well, now I feel bad.
Okay. Of course it is. Those
dropsy in British English, noun.
Cool.
I'm just going to leave it a mystery.
Well, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Call in with your reasons for being institutionalized, 904-638-3231. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show, as always. Next week, we're going to be talking about the winner of the August poll pick, which at this current point in time is The Faculty.
Unless everyone switches in the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
You got 2 hours to completely
this
change.
Recording that is not coming out for several days.
For a couple days. Yeah.
So
sorry about your luck. So slam your eyeballs into The Faculty. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us at Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email at straightchillingpodcast.com. And if you want to join in on our daily Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can do so. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Hey, fuck you.